Are you new or old to us here at the Cowboys Report? If you're old, you've been subscribed for a while, type in O in the comments. If you're new, if you're a recent subscriber, type in N. Want to welcome all of you who are subscribed to the Cowboys Report. We're happy to have you here. And if you're not subscribed, then go ahead and click that big red button, and then you can type in N for new. You're watching the Cowboys Report by Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey, and we're going to discuss some Deion Jones trade rumors or ideas out there right now for the Cowboys. I'll give this one star. The idea of trading for Deion Jones does make some sense. I think there's a lot of stuff still to be sorted out before I pencil in more than 2 stars. So Bleacher Report, they suggested several trade ideas before the trade deadline. I'm all for that. Makes sense. And I do think Deion Jones could be a good fit for the Dallas Cowboys. They, of course, had Jones, BR did, going to Dallas while we're talking about it. Jones has played great under Dan Quinn in the past. And a trade of Deion Jones is very similar to the ideas of Grady Jarrett we talked about before. They are rebuilding. Is he going to be a long-term piece or not? They want to save some money as they begin to rebuild. Jones's tackle numbers have remained highly impressive over the past couple of years with Dan Quinn or without Dan Quinn. I will make note versus 2020, last year of Dan Quinn partially, to 2021, the numbers did begin to decline a little bit in terms of the high-end impact ones. Tackles for loss outside of an injured 2018 season were the lowest they've been in a while, 9 TFLs to 11 to 8. The sacks dip off, the interceptions didn't pick a pass off for the first time in a while, but Deion Jones is still a pretty good impact linebacker. Now, I do think that prime Deion Jones might not be what you would be getting if you were to go out and acquire him at his expensive contract, as we can see more in depth here. 17 missed tackles, a little bit high, not a massive figure given how many tackles he made, so still a good tackler, still a good run support player. The issue I ran into was the coverage, and these are advanced stats all per Pro Football Reference, It's high on the completion percentage, high on the yards, high on the touchdowns. I would argue that the Falcons defense it regressed without Dan Quinn / Raheem Morris last year in 2021. So that is noteworthy. I do think the age, as Jones turns 28 this year, it's not a bad age. And I think the cost of acquiring him wouldn't be that bad given the contract, as we'll get into, that goes along with it. We will also discuss how Jones could fit, what could be the problem there. Before we continue on, I want to hear from you guys. Would you trade for Deion Jones if you were Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones, you ran the Cowboys? Why for yes and for no? Get your votes in for me in the comments section right now. Using Micah Parsons as the hybrid edge rusher continues to make sense. Please do that, Dallas. Jones would be the best player on this Cowboys roster, at least at linebacker, right? He's better than Leighton Vander Esch, and Jabril Cox and Damone Clark, who I don't know if he's going to play this year, are all upside players. So at minimum, Jones could probably play a little bit more over Leighton Vander Esch. I think you'd have a lot of weak side linebackers, not a true Mike linebacker beyond Micah, who of course can do that role. But I think Jones would be an upgrade at the linebacker position, especially if the Cowboys get through preseason and Jabril Cox hasn't quite taken that next step forward, or God forbid LVE gets hurt. So if Cox does not impress, if he does not have a breakout early on or in the offseason preseason, you could start to look at other linebackers, because I don't know if Damone Clark's going to play. Do you want to bank on a bunch of late round picks and UDFAs as your linebacker 3, not including Micah Parsons as a hybrid edge? So I do think there's some sense to adding Deion Jones. The problem is he's your guy if you add him. Like, you got to feel confident that you're not going to play either Leighton Vander Esch or Jabril Cox pretty much at all. You trade for Deion Jones right now? Makes sense for the Falcons. They save almost $11 million. Cowboys take on 2 years, almost $28 million. That is a lot of money to pay for a linebacker who I would argue is coming off a bit of a down year. So that's kind of the pros and cons of adding Deion Jones. I'm open to it, but I would want to see the Cowboys give Jabril Cox a chance in the preseason. And if he doesn't impress, if he doesn't wow, or if Damone Clark's out for the year, which I kind of think is going to be the case about what Stephen Jones says, or if LVE is not prime LVE, which I'm not expecting, then you can revisit Deion Jones. So for now, keep it in the back of your mind, in your back pocket as an option, but I want to see what the young guys can do first and foremost. If you want unfiltered, uncensored Cowboys news and analysis, then follow us on Rumble. We had our Cowboys Report after hours last week on Rumble, which is always a good time there. So go follow us, rumble.com/Cowboys TV. It is free, by the way. Help us dominate that video platform just like we are here on YouTube. If you haven't already, rumble.com/Cowboys TV. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, I'll put that link in the comment section and in the description. More linebacker conversation here, this time on Anthony Barr. And a lot of what we just talked about with Deion Jones, wanting to see how the young guys play, I'm in a similar boat for Barr, but I'll give this one 2 stars. And that's because it's a free agent as opposed to a trade idea. So it's a little bit more likely from that standpoint. Barr is one of the more notable unsigned free agents. And as Mike Fisher points out, he's got a bit more experience than most guys as a rusher, although that can be viewed as a negative. I'll get into that in a second. I think he'd be pretty cheap. There is the George Edwards connection. He was the DC for Minnesota. Now he's a defensive assistant for the Cowboys. Barr has been a bit banged up as of late. I know he made a lot of money last year. At this stage, we are in May. He's not going to command a big contract, I would not expect. Now, part of Barr's value comes as a blitzer. Over his career, about 12% of his snaps come as a blitzer. That is more than most. Kyle Van Noy, for example, is somewhere in the 25-20 range, about a quarter of his reps. Micah Parsons this year was a third. He was almost a third pass rush coverage run stopping, which is perfect, if not more pass rush reps needed for Micah Parsons. Barr comes in about 12%. And his numbers, though, as a pass rusher have begun to decline a little bit as he continues to age. You see all those missed games, right? Missed some games this past year. Barely played in 2020. 2019, he missed a couple games. 2018, missed some games. He does offer you value both as a rusher and as a coverage player. The problem for me, the specific fit for Dallas, how often are you going to use Anthony Barr as a rusher? Because if you're just dropping Micah into coverage over and over and not letting him be a pass rusher, I don't think that's good usage of a guy who we saw can be a top-tier pass rusher. He can stop the run, sure. He can drop into coverage. But part of the usage rate, that's why I wasn't in love with Van Noy either, to maximize Barr as a rusher, are you going to not bring Parsons? Are you going to just blitz heavily? It's a bit of a giveaway if you have them both on the field. So I'm open to it. I think he'd be pretty cheap. He would give me better depth at linebacker. God forbid something happens to Micah. There's another pass rusher at linebacker you have. But I'm not sold on adding Anthony Barr and being able to maximize him with the presence of Parsons. I think his role is a little bit overlapped by Micah. I would almost prefer a true thumper and use him on early downs and rotate in Jabril Cox and LVE on more pass rushing downs. So which do you prefer? I'm open to both of them. There are some concerns you run into, though. Type in AB for you'd rather go get Anthony Barr, or you can type in DJ for you would rather trade for Deion Jones. No wrong answer. We're a show for the people. I want to hear from you guys right now in that comments section. Is Terence Steele going to start at right tackle? Yeah, 4 stars on this one. Again, some big media out there not super sold because they're weird. Inside the Star, it approached the idea of, well, what if Josh Ball, Matt Waletzko can push Steele, which we'll get to. I would be very shocked and frankly concerned if Terence Steele does not win your right tackle job or isn't just your right tackle. I don't know how much of the competition there's really going to be. The Cowboys cut La'el Collins with the plan of playing Steele at right tackle. That has been rather obvious, I believe, since the Cowboys began to shop Collins, and there was not much trade interest from that standpoint there. Steele took a massive step forward from his UDFA rookie year to 2021. Now, he's not perfect. There is still plenty of room for Steele to grow. He did allow a bit more pressures than you want. I don't think he was as good of a player as La'el Collins was, but he's a overall starting-ish caliber offensive tackle based on what we saw in 2021. By the way, all these stats from PFF because nobody else really does offensive linemen, so we deal with what we can there. Steele is not perfect, but he's very cheap. He's affordable, and he wasn't that much worse than La'el Collins. Ideally, he takes another step forward in year 3. That is the goal and the idea there, and I know the coaching staff loves how hard he works compared to somebody like Collins, if we're being honest. We'll spend some more time on some of the other options on this roster, but first, what is your confidence level in Terence Steele? Scale this for me 1 to 100. 1 being you think he's a stiff, he's a bum, he's the worst offensive lineman in ever. 100 being he's better than Tyron Smith. And better than prime Tyron Smith. So have some fun for me and assign a confidence level in the comment section right now. You've got 2 backup options. Apologies to Simon and Collins. I don't think those guys are going to do anything for you. At tackle, that is Josh Ball and Matt Waletzko. Let's start with some Josh Ball conversation. 4th round pick out of Marshall in the 2021 NFL Draft. Fell to where the Cowboys took him because some rather obvious and concerning off-the-field discussions that we've had many a time here on the channel. I've made my peace. It is what it is. He beat his girlfriend at Florida State. Not a fan of that. On the field focus here, he didn't play at all last year. It was a redshirt year for Josh Ball. Didn't make an impact. Wanted to add some strength. Maybe he's your swing tackle. It is difficult to rely on a 4th round pick who has never played football in the NFL, expecting to beating out Terence Steele. Of course, to be fair, none of us thought Terence Steele was going to start as an undrafted rookie. Now, that was pretty rough in year 1, but he did get a lot better in year 2. So there is upside on the field as it relates to Josh Ball. There's also plenty with Matt Waletzko, the 5th round pick this year out of North Dakota. Really great athlete. I am highly intrigued by his upside, but I do think he needs time to grow and develop. I don't think he is ready to start in year 1 and maybe not year 2. He is a 5th round pick after all. Be patient with those 2 players. So I would be surprised and concerned, I think, if Terence Steele is not your starter in week 1 at right tackle. It is Mother's Day, so if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you guys very much. Let me know what you guys got your mom for Mother's Day this year. Let me know in the comments right now.